I'm not supposed to be on camera yet. What is this?
But I'm doing it as an aid to humility. It's like, well, I don't know how to start improving my life. Someone might say that. And I would say, well, you're not aiming low enough. There's something you could do that you are regarding as trivial, that you could do, that you would do, that would result in an actual improvement. But it's not a big enough improvement for you, so you won't lower yourself enough to take the opportunity.
Incremental steps.
Yes.
So this is also what is achieved through exercise. It's one of the most important.
Yeah. Well, what do you do when you go and lift weights?
Yeah.
You don't go and, like, if you haven't
Right,
bench
of course.
pressed before, you don't put 400 pounds on the damn bar and drop the bar through your skull.
Right.
You know, you think, look, when I started working out when I was a kid, I was weighed about 130 pounds and I was 6'1". I was a thin kid and I smoked a lot. I wasn't in good shape. I wasn't in good physical shape. And I went to the gym and it was bloody embarrassing, you know, and people would come over and help me with the goddamn weights. Here's how you're supposed to use this. You know, it was humiliating. And maybe I was pressing 65 pounds or something at that point. You know, but what am I going to do? I'm going to lift up 150 pounds and injure myself right off the bat? No, I had to go in there and strip down and put my skinny goddamn self in front of the mirror and think, son of a bitch, there's all these monsters in the gym who've been lifting weights for 10 years and I'm struggling to get 50 pounds off the bar. Tough luck for me. But I could lift 50 pounds. And it wasn't very long until I could lift 75. And, well, you know how it goes. And I never injured myself when I was weightlifting. And the reason for that was I never pushed myself past where I knew I could go. And I pushed myself a lot. You know, I gained 35 pounds of muscle in about 3 years in university. I kind of had to quit because I was eating so goddamn much I couldn't stand it. I was eating like 6 meals a day. It was just taking up too much time. But there's a humility in determining what it is that the wretched creature that you are can actually manage. Aim low. And I don't mean don't aim, and I don't mean don't aim up. But you have to accept the fact that you can set yourself a goal that you can attain, and there's not going to be much glory in it to begin with. Because if you're not in very good shape, the goal that you could attain tomorrow isn't very glorious. But it's a hell of a lot better than nothing, and it beats the hell out of bitterness, and it's way better than blaming someone else. It's way less dangerous. And you could do it. And what's cool about it, there's a statement in the New Testament It's called the Matthew Principle, and economists use it to describe how the economy in the world works. To those who have everything, more will be given. From those who have nothing, everything will be taken. It's like what's very pessimistic in some sense, because it means that as you start to fail, you fail more and more rapidly. But it also means that as you start to succeed, you succeed more and more rapidly. And so you take an incremental step, and, well, now you can lift 55 pounds instead of 52.5 pounds. You think, well, what the hell's that? It's like, it's one step on a very long journey. And so it starts to compound on you. So a small step today puts you in a position to take a slightly bigger step the next day. And then that puts you in a position to take a slightly bigger step the next day. And you do that for 2 or 3 years, man, you're starting to stride.
All right, let's get this started. Welcome everybody who's new. We're streaming on Rumble and on YouTube today. Typically, we do these things inside of the Gaintrust community. It's a Discord server, but we're going to do these more and more often here on YouTube and Rumble. Joining me today is Dave Reaboi, who many of you probably know from Twitter. He's a national security expert, as well as, more importantly, in my opinion, a bodybuilder, somebody who has been a friend of mine for a few years through Twitter, been a really guiding person in my personal bodybuilding, my journey, and just generally a good guy to talk to. He's a dynamic person with so many interests that span from music, a jazz musician, to an author. And right now he's going to do his first bodybuilding show at the age of 45. This is something that I think for him has been building up over time. The idea of doing a bodybuilding show, not doing a bodybuilding show, when he clearly has the acumen for such, has been sort of, I think, he's been towing that line for a while now, and I think he has finally pulled the trigger, and he's learning a lot from this process. So I'm going to bring him in now, and let's start this conversation. Hey, Dave.
Hey, how are you? I
Good.
cannot. Unfortunately, I'm having trouble with my monitor here. Oh my god, it's freaking in and out and shutting off.
It's okay.
I'm so sorry.
I could do a song. I could like sing a song or something. I'll tell everybody I got a haircut today for the first time in like a few months, and like if you saw me this morning compared to what I look like right now, I mean it's like night and day.
It looks good.
I'm just looking at how good I look.
Excellent.
I'm very handsome right now. Yeah, for you, Dave. For you.
Appreciate it. Yeah. I've got right now. I've just got a blue screen, so I can't see anything. I can't see you.
Really?
But I guess it'll have to do.
Is that? Let me see. Is it something that maybe it's on my end?
No, it's on my end because
is it?
It's something with the monitor.
You can't see me.
Nope.
Okay. All right.
So I've got this set up is I've got the camera, and then sort of just below it, I have a small, I don't know, maybe 10-inch little monitor that I use just to so that I can feel like I'm speaking to somebody.
I know that I set my camera up for the first time where it's facing me now, and like I wanted it to, and actually I knew that you did that from the last time we did this. Someone had just set up your system the last time we talked about a year ago, where
I did.
You get to you did. Yeah. You spent money, but you look right into the camera. For me, I'm still looking kind of down, and it's not right yet. I'll get it eventually, but yeah, I definitely every time I do these things, I make it a little bit better. So we'll eventually get there. But for any of you who don't know Dave already, I've kind of already introduced him and what he's all about. I'll let him sort of introduce himself, and we'll go into some questions, and we'll just kind of freewheel it and just see where the conversation takes us. So Dave, the floor is yours if you want to give your quick introduction.
Yeah. Thanks. I mean, as you said, my big thing coming up is I've decided to do a bodybuilding show for the first time at age 46. It's going to be on my 46th birthday. I've been thinking about it for a while, but it's the kind of thing that I've always put off doing because I would think, oh, I'm not ready yet, or I'll do it later. I'll do it when I have time. I'll do it when I can concentrate more, and everything will be perfect. Well, nothing is ever perfect. Nothing ever. It's never the right time to do it. And I looked at the clock. Someone who goes to my gym was going to do this show, and I said, oh, what's the date? And it turned out to be November 12th, which is my birthday. And I don't know why, but there was just something there at that moment that said, I want to do this. Partly it had to do with it not being so far out into the future. It was like 8 weeks. I'm like, okay, 8 weeks is somehow manageable, because it really flies by. It really, really flies by. Now, also, I mean, I was doing a cut already, so it's not like I was starting from zero.
So things lined up for you.
Yeah, things lined up, and I just did it. And I'll tell you, I mean, I've kind of spoken about this before, which is that at the end of the day, I think what changed it was getting the dog.
I was going to actually ask. That's perfect. Yeah.
And
I was going to tell everybody that you recently got this dog. And from when we talked privately, you said that it was a game changer.
Yeah. And it really, because, I mean, I had never had a dog of my own. It was always something that I was like, you know what? I would love to have one. When I was in DC, I was thinking about getting one, but I didn't know the first thing about it. I didn't know what breed to get, where to go to find one. How much should I pay? Once I get the dog, what happens to that next? Well, I've got to train it. How do you train it? All of these questions. And finally, I just saw the photo of Miles, and I said, on Instagram at the breeder's Instagram page, and I was like, I knew, and I was like, I'll just figure out the details later, and that's what ended up happening. And years ago, I read a piece by Molly Hemingway, which has stuck with me. I don't know why I didn't take it to heart until now, but she said, in regards to having kids, she was like, look, it's never going to be the right time. You're always going to think, hey, let me wait until making more money, or until we've got the bigger house, or until, 16 different things. The right time to do it is now. I mean, obviously within reason, but just don't be overcome by your fears of the unknown, because yes, it is taking a leap into the unknown.
Yeah, Tucker Carlson said something actually similar. He probably got it from Molly Hemingway. But yeah, he mentioned something similar, and he even mentioned, like, I know, like, I'm a guy who's got my shit together, but he's like, I know it's rich coming from me, but it's like, it's never the right time. And it's like, it is a similar sentiment. And actually, it really resonated with me. And when you just bringing it up now makes me realize how often I do stuff like that myself.
Yeah.
But the dog.
So I get
really,
the dog.
Yeah.
So I get the dog, and I decide to get the dog. I put the deposit down, and it was like a Tuesday, and then I could pick him up on a Saturday. And then sort of beginning on Tuesday, I'm like, okay, I'm going to watch some YouTube videos and read some articles on how, what to do with the dog in the first 24 hours. How do you train him? What are the things you need? How do you dog proof your home? All these things. And I start watching these videos, some of which were very helpful, with these, very energetic women talking about all these things that you have to do. And then at a certain point, I was like, look, I am never going to remember this. I'm going to screw it up 100 different ways. But at the end of the day, I'm probably not going to kill the dog. And people far dumber than I am have somehow successfully managed to keep dogs alive. So like, I can do this. It'll be fine. And I just kind of, stopped worrying and just took the leap forward. And that's really what I did with the show as well, because I think it was completely a product of my experience with Miles, and my experience with just kind of deciding to take that leap. And is it a hard thing? Yeah, it's a hard thing, and you have to make sacrifices. And I mean, is it crazy? Yeah, of course, it's completely insane. Mm-hmm. The hardest part, in fact, for me is the posing, which is the part that I never really was interested in doing. I mean, that was the big thing that kept me from doing it thus far, was just the idea of like a routine and choreography and all this is just not really my thing. But I'm like, you know what? If you're going to do it, then do it. So,
but have you grown to enjoy the posing and all that? Because I relate to that so much. I don't want to pose. I don't like the posing idea. And it's not because of an aversion or anything like that. It's more just, I have no interest. There just isn't an interest in that. Like I find other parts of bodybuilding to be incredibly interesting, and I could dig in deep, and I can get into all the technicalities, and I can get into the artistry of lifting. But when it comes to the idea of posing and getting on stage, while it's something I am going to do, and you're part of the reason why I will do it, you talked me into it. And I know why. I know, and this is one of the things I was going to ask you. But were you going to go somewhere with that? Because I did want to ask you about that real quick.
Oh, I mean, in regards to posing and stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, look, I knew it would be a pain in the ass, but I didn't know how hard it will be physically. How physically draining it is. It is more physically draining than any cardio I've ever done.
Is it a workout though? Would you say it's
absolutely a cardio workout?
A cardio workout.
I mean, if you're doing it for 15, 20 minutes, and you're really doing it, and you're trying to hit every pose, because remember, if you're hitting a double bicep shot, it's not just your biceps. it's your back. It's making sure your shoulders are right. It's your abs. It's your legs. It's where are your legs positioned. You know, everything is so, you know, the difference in how it appears is so profound with the most minuscule of movements. And it's really hard. So you're doing it for 5 minutes and you're sweating like a pig.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I try to do it after cardio in the morning, before I've eaten, and it's really hard. You know,
There
it's
are
really
people.
hard.
Yeah, I know it's hard. I mean, I know all about it, and it's something that it's one of those, you know, like the dragons that you haven't yet like taken care of yet. Like it's one of
Right.
those things. It's just waiting for me to finally like look at it and acknowledge it. But there are some people who even like I don't just hear this from like random people, like people who are really big time, like Seth Feroce, for example, like
Mhm.
posing between sets even. And it's not necessarily like to practice for bodybuilding shows, although maybe it is on some level. But they tout the sort of the benefits of the mind muscle connection type of a thing.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's, and I can relate to that. Like, for example, after like doing like some big chest movement, I'll just do these like very easy like diamond push-ups off the back of like an incline bench where it's like barely any range of motion, but the whole point is like squeeze the chest.
Mhm.
Same, I guess it's the same principle, but yeah, posing to me, I mean, it looks really, it looks tough. I mean, and I'm hearing it
Well,
from you, so
I mean, the posing was one thing. It's like, okay, I can get down with the posing, but the theatrical aspects are the things that I'm like, man, this is just way too. I hate all types of theatrical anything.
Yeah,
You know,
I get it.
just all of it. I've always been allergic to it. It's just, I don't know. It's so like I've got to pick out music, and I have
What are you
you know,
going with?
just like, oh my God, what the hell am I gonna pick? Because
Miles Davis?
so you go to these shows and you see the music, and I'm always shaking my head. I'm like, man, this is horrible. It's so it's just horrible in many different ways. Cheesy is the best way to describe it. And I kind of realized after I'm sitting here trying to come up with music, I realized why they picked the cheesy tunes.
Yeah.
You know, because you don't want something too fast, and you don't want something too slow, and you want a power ballad, basically.
Yeah.
You know, you want a dramatic power ballad so that you can do your routine in a way that makes sense, and you're not sitting here rushing. And that's giving me a tremendous amount of trouble right now, is trying to find the right thing that's not cheesy. I have in my brain this idea that I'm going to take some kind of a samba recording that
Hey,
sort
that's
of
not a bad idea.
that sort of exists on two rhythmic levels. You know, there's the complicated and dense textured you know, kind of rhythmic bed, and then on top of it you have the floating melody, which is often far slower and kind of like you know, bel canto or something.
Well, it would be very Reaboi if you pull that off.
Yeah. And then people were like, you know, you don't want to alienate the judges and the crowd by picking something totally off the wall. I'm like, yeah, you know, whatever it's going to be, it's going to be off the wall. You know, maybe it'll be a Coltrane thing. Maybe it'll be something that I mix together, like a Coltrane thing with that bed of samba.
Yeah, I wonder if there's well, maybe if you do it yourself, that'd be amazing. But I wonder if there's what do you call it? Like an already like a remix version of a lot of these things that you really like.
Probably
like I'm sure they exist.
Actually, there are a couple things. There are a couple things that are pretty cool. But I did it. I mean, I had a friend who was competing at the Tampa Pro 2 years ago, and I did her music. I mixed different things together. And it was, I mean, it's 60 seconds long, so it's not like, a massive production. But still 60 seconds. And I've got, she's a great posing coach.
Is she the one who's coaching
who's
you?
helping me? Yeah. She's helping me put together the routine and figure this out. And like, I mean, it takes work. I mean, we have posing practice every Sunday, and like, hopefully I get better each time. Hopefully I get leaner each time. So it's actually much easier as you get leaner. Something that I can't really imagine is being like kind of high body fat and posing, because you don't see anything.
Yeah. Have you ever seen that? I don't know his name, but it's like a meme. There's a guy, there's probably something wrong with him, but like he likes to hang out with the bodybuilders, and he does all these shows and stuff, and he just doesn't look good at all, but he loves it. I forget his name, but it's old. It's really old, but he's like legendary though in like the bodybuilding world. But if you don't
just
know,
like a hanger on.
Yeah, exactly. But he's like he doesn't know that he's like, it's embarrassing. It just makes him kind of iconic,
Yeah.
Like it's like what's that guy's name from what was it? It was America's Got Talent or something like that. Young Ho or something like that, or what's his name? The guy who sang that song. It doesn't matter. Do you know what I'm talking about?
No. But I can imagine. But I can imagine. I think every serious bodybuilding gym has at least one guy who
doesn't belong there, but he's just
yeah. And I mean, I know that one of the gyms that I go to has a guy like that, and I mean, super nice. We're not super nice, but he just loves to be in the gym.
Yeah.
And he just loves to talk to to people who are bodybuilders.
Yeah. Well, so I have some questions here for you. I'm trying to decide it, because you've probably been asked this 1,000,001 times. So okay, I have a good question. This is one I genuinely want to know the answer to. Because you're a political guy, like your business is in politics and global affairs, and you're also clearly in like really great shape, and you're impressive to behold just wherever you go. I'm wondering if you know what I mean, as a bodybuilder, I do too. So, no, but I'm wondering if, like, in that world, you've ever like really rubbed off on somebody. They don't have to be important, but someone notable. Has this happened? Does this happen to you often, where people are like wondering, like, hey, I want to, like, they see you, they want to get in shape, and like, does this happen to you often? And is there anybody, like, any funny stories, or anybody in particular that you've like rubbed off on that suddenly got really into like bodybuilding, like I don't know, like a Michael Malice type person?
Oh, I mean, yeah, I mean, I don't know how deeply they'll get into it. I don't know if it's kind of whatever, seeing me is a spark that ignited or has ignited anyone. But yeah, I mean, I do get people stopping me and asking me or whatever, giving me a compliment. I mean, I joke that like the best thing about being jacked is going to a gym and then just the old dudes in the gym who are there, it doesn't even matter what kind of shape they're in, but they just walk over and they just give me a fist bump. and it's like, okay, solid.
That's true. That's the thing about gyms, is like, you can go anywhere in the world, but if you look like you really belong, you can, like, people will, give you a nod, or they'll fist bump you. Like, I walked into a gym recently that I hadn't been to in years, and some people that look vaguely familiar. And as I'm walking in, and this is like at like 8 or 9 at night, as I'm walking in, they wouldn't let me through. They needed my opinion on they needed my opinion on something. They're like, hey, have you seen I think it was like Pumping Iron, but they like wanted me to like comment on this. I'm like, and we started talking. It's like, and then it's like, all right, we'll see you later. It's like, they wouldn't do that to somebody who like was like, I don't know if I should be here. But
Right.
But
Well, yeah. I mean, there is a when I was it's kind of roundabout about way to get there, but I'll get there. When I was in the music scene in New York City, um, I used to encounter. I met. I mean, I was lucky as can be. It's just one of the great kind of fortunes of my life that I got to meet and often to play with some of my biggest musical heroes. And while I was living in New York, and I mean, these people were giants. These people were just absolute. I mean, to me, they were absolute giants. And yet they walked around the streets and nobody knew who they were. It was just like, some old guy, um, black, white, or whatever. I mean, just just some rest. Just someone walking down the streets of New York like any other. And I thought, you know what? I kind of like. I don't really want to be famous. But I want to be jazz famous, which is what I called it. Which is that, like, you have someone that can walk by on the street completely anonymously, but this same person will walk into a jazz club and be surrounded by his people, and they will all know and respect him.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, I was like, that's what I want. I want to be respected by my peers. I want to be respected by the people who care about these things that I care about. And
right.
It doesn't matter who else. I'll never have I'll never be household name famous, and I'm totally cool with that.
Are you like? But do you prefer that?
No. I absolutely prefer that. Jazz famous or niche famous or what have you. I mean, it's amazing. I don't go to Texas that often, but every time I go, I'm in a gym and somebody from Twitter recognizes me. And which I think is a funny thing. I mean, it always happens in gyms. Sometimes it happens in the neighborhood, but more often than not, it'll happen in a gym. So someone will just point and be like, "I know you from Twitter," or I just just in Austin, somebody. I mean, there were 7 people at Gold's downtown in Austin at like 8 a.m. on a Sunday. Like 7 people. The place was empty. And as soon as I walked out, someone pinged me and was like, "Hey, was that you at Gold's downtown?" Like, wow. I mean, I don't have 174,000 followers. It's not a lot of people all told. In the grand scheme of things, it's not a lot of people. Who knows how many are bots?
And it's politics too.
And it's politics and whatever. But people end up, saying hello, and people end up recognizing me, and it's quite funny. I was at dinner with my parents in Boca Raton a few weeks ago, and it was like a kind of it was an Anthony Sabatini event, so it was like a little political thing, and a woman came up to the table, and my parents were like, "Oh, who's there?" And she points down and says, "Is that Miles?"
Oh my God.
And my parents were like, "What the fuck is going on?"
He's had that dog for a month.
I know. Yeah. It's just like,
it's already a famous dog.
Right. How does this old woman know who, your dog is? Like, well,
That's
it's on Twitter. So I mean, all that said, it's a kind of roundabout way to say that it's really nice when you walk into a gym, and even if they don't exactly know who you are, they give you some
some respect,
bit of respect. Yeah, right. Some little bit of respect. And I'm looking forward to the day when I go and I use a gym and they say, no, we're not taking your money. We just want you to be here.
What level would you have to get to do that, though?
Probably you've got to be an IFBB pro.
Yeah, you'd have to. Yeah, one.
Yeah, because I mean, I've gone to train with different people, and you know, oh, I'm an IFBB pro. Well, oh yeah, come on.
Yeah.
You know, it's
because
just
they
like,
get a picture.
you're honoring our gym just by
Yes.
being here. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. And then they could, especially with social media, they get something, they get like, you know, CBum
Right.
in their Instagram, and then suddenly people are like, oh, CBum went to this gym. You know,
Yep.
makes sense. So I mean, but I mean, I'm totally with you on that. You know, on a very, this is good for, I think, everybody here who goes to the gym. You don't have to be Twitter famous to experience some of what we're talking about. You just have to be someone who is provably working hard. You know, if you have the gains to show it, you will notice a difference. Not that people, and that's the other thing, is that people are not actually, this is everybody knows this to be a misconception, but it's still pervasive, that people are actually pretty cool at gyms, even to the new guys, like overweight people as well, like people who are extremely overweight. It's not very common that you see someone who's mocking or looking or staring. People are rooting you on typically. But with all that being said, though,
the only people that I mock and have a bad attitude towards are people who very, very clearly and obviously violate the unwritten rules of like, you know, of like
true
decent civility.
True.
Yeah. But I mean, it's quite difficult to be a conscientious person and violate these rules. So you know, so there's that. And it's always, and interestingly enough, like it's always someone who, I mean, once you've decided that they're assholes, then I figure like, okay, it's okay to comment on it's okay to fat shame them. It's okay to,
oh, of course,
whatever.
Fair game. It's fair game.
Right. Yeah. I mean, once you're an asshole, it's like, hey, you know,
now you're fat.
Right. Exactly.
Joking. We don't fat shame. But yeah, no, it's what is do you have any gym etiquette that's particular to you that you know is a little bit like it's one of your more neurotic ones? Because I have mine that like I would never put this onto the world, but I have mine and I'll give you an example. Maybe you can think of one of yourself. So for me, this is neurotic, and I'm aware it's neurotic, and I don't think anybody should live by this but me. If I'm using a mirror, even if you're behind me, don't make yourself, you know, in my periphery. I mean, if you're walking past, it's fine. But if you start lifting in, you know, even if you're behind me, I still view that as a faux pas. But I know that's just me. That's me being neurotic or whatever the word is. But I wouldn't put that. That's not actual gym etiquette. That's.
Well, I can see that. I can see that when it's a big room and people have plenty of space. I mean, at the end of the day, it's bathroom etiquette, right?
Yes.
You know, you show up and you go to a urinal, and you don't want the guy who walks in to use the urinal next to you.
That happened to me recently, actually.
Yeah, I mean, what's wrong with these people? You go, you're supposed to, you know, if the only time you're supposed to use the urinal next to someone is if it's if everything else is closed. Right. You know, you're in an airport or whatever, blah blah blah. You know, you're filing in and out. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of like that. That's something that I don't understand is when people sort of when there's plenty of space, but they decide to kind of gravitate to it. I mean, the thing I hate the most is when someone will go and someone will just, I mean, it's always dumbbell curls, but like, you know, just doing curls like right up against the mirror, right up against the weight rack. It's like, dude, I've got to get in there. People have to, people have to get in there. Or like, you know, guys who move the bench all the way up to the weight rack. It's like, what are you doing? Just be considerate for someone that has to go and navigate around you.
I haven't seen that in a while, but that would definitely annoy me.
Yeah, there's one gym where I go where that often happens. Look, the other thing, I mean, call me an asshole, but when I lived
this is the good stuff. This is what I was trying to get. Give me the asshole take.
When I lived in DC, there was a gym that I belonged to that I really disliked. It was Vita.
Oh
But
yeah, oh yeah. I've never been, but I know
it?
all about Vita.
Yeah. So it was
Yeah.
it was a block away from my apartment. So like
Okay.
you can't not you can't not. I
It's
that
good
was
enough to go to, but I know
sure.
I kind of understand. I think I understand where you're
Yeah,
going
so
with this.
I would go there. I remember when I first kind of walked in the couple of days, and there's an area where people are doing body weight exercises. I'm like, I'm sorry, man. If you're a, let's say, reasonably healthy, I mean, definitely not healthy, but like you're a reasonably healthy, let's say, non-retarded young person, like don't sit here and do body weight exercises I mean, you're not freaking, CrossFit games. This is not, you're doing jumping jacks and stuff, and like that is your workout. Like you don't need a gym for this. But I would see these guys doing it, and without fail, there's these pasty dudes, and the one shirt I saw, I started to laugh and I couldn't stop. It was "Nevertheless, she persisted."
Oh God.
Elizabeth
I
Warren
was
shirt. I'm
waiting
like,
for I was waiting for something like that.
man, like
Nevertheless, she
I don't even
persisted
know.
with
I
with
don't
a
even,
Ruth with a RBG tattoo on his shoulder.
yeah. Exactly. So that and after that, I kind of I referred to my neighborhood as as like the kind of the lefty blogger neighborhood, because everyone around me, it seems, was just some
You mean Washington
some
D.C.?
lefty blogger. Yeah.
I mean, you mean Washington D.C.? Let's be real. This is
The other
Washington
thing that I
D.C.
noticed, here's something else that I noticed. I noticed that, and I noticed that by far, the more expensive and sort of nicer. When I say nicer, I mean like kind of big box nicer, like the more luxury kind of, let's say Equinox or that type. The more a gym is kind of like that. Vita is like the perfect example.
Yeah.
The less friendly the people are,
And more
and
social, or would you?
yeah, I mean, the
More
more
social, less friendly. I mean that very
yeah,
specifically. Like more
yeah.
talking, but annoying.
Right. And like no camaraderie. I mean, plenty of people who go who know
Yeah.
one another because they see it. They go as a kind of social thing, but you'll never meet anybody. And in fact, I didn't meet anybody. I mean, when I say like I don't go to the gym to meet people, but if you go and you see the same people every day, it's almost weird and perverse not to say, "Hey, man, how you doing? What's up?" Blah blah blah. Blah, blah. I mean, just that much.
Yes.
And the more hardcore or serious gym you go to, the more people are actually friendly.
Yes.
And the more it's a welcoming atmosphere where you I mean, people just go up to one another and just start talking.
Mm-hmm.
In a way that that never happens at frankly at an LA Fitness or Gold's or whatever.
Oh, you would include a Gold's in that?
I would, yeah, I would. I mean, the gyms that I'm a
I
member
still,
of
for some
here,
reason, associate that with Arnold and pumping iron, and I kind of refuse to sort of let myself realize now that Gold's is just like
well, it's
LA.
just a chain.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just a chain. Have you been to the Venice Beach
I
location?
have not. I've only been to California once, and it was for a quick business trip. But I definitely one day want to go there.
So
Or
when
not.
I went, so when I mean, number one is they totally rape you on it's $40 to get a workout there, because they know like everybody who shows up is gonna pay however much money, they may as well charge $40, which is like any other gym is $20. But so I went I guess 2 years ago, something like that, maybe more, maybe 3. And I was apprehensive. I was like, all right, I'm going to walk into a place where I'm going to be the one who's going to look like crap. And I'm going to, I'm going to be some little tiny dude surrounded by these, serious badasses. And that did not happen. It was pretty interesting. It was pretty
to your disappointment?
No, I mean, I went in there, I was shocked. I mean, number one is it's mostly tourists, I think. And number two is it's like, I mean, I look better than than just about all the tourists. And like the regulars were just kind of, I mean, it was a regular gym, but maybe with a little bit more, a little bit more seriousness. It definitely wasn't, this place that made you feel awkward or, like you look like crap.
Right.
So I was very, very surprised. I was very, very surprised.
You were saying earlier about gyms and people making, camaraderie was kind of the word that stuck out when you were talking. This was actually, we brought this up last week. I brought to people's attention in Gaintrust. There was somebody posted this on Instagram, and I was going to post it in here, but I'm struggling to figure out StreamYards for that. But I'll just read it to you. So this person posted this in earnest. Remember that, in earnest. Mm-hmm. So the post goes like this: gym code words. That's all you equals you almost died. Engage your core equals your form was shit. Now let me finish before we get. I want to get your full reaction. Looking big equals looking average. Looking huge equals looking average. I'm on a bulk equals I'm eating like shit. I've benched that in high school equals I've never benched that in my life. I'm fighting demons equals I can't get over my high school girlfriend. Okay, now it is funny. It is. I think it's probably just meant to be humorous and fair enough. But I just find that to be like so not the ethos of real gym culture. I think this is like somebody who only goes to Vita would ever think that this is how people think. I don't know anybody, and I know from myself from experience that if I'm saying you're looking big, I basically mean it. And even if I don't, I'm not thinking in the back of my head that you look average. I'm thinking like, way to kill it, man. Like, good shit. Glad to see you. Looking good, man. Like, keep going. Right. That's the real ethos of gyms and all the rest. No,
exactly. I totally agree with you. The compliments have to be sincere. I do think that like sometimes you'll show up and you'll see somebody who you see, who maybe you don't know on a first name basis, but you're relatively friendly and blah blah blah, and then you'll see someone who like really looks like shit, who used to look good, and then really like, what the hell happened?
What about the people? Sorry, let me interrupt. But what about the people who look the same? I feel like they're the worst.
Biggest pain in the ass.
I think that's the worst.
Just the worst. I've
known this, it's funny. I went to this gym by me, very local, like 5 minutes away, but I've been gym hopping because there's a lot of good gyms around me. Mm-hmm. And I stopped going to this one gym for a couple of years, and I came back recently, and like a lot of the same people are still there. And to my not surprise, there's especially one person there who has not improved in any way at all. Like, it just looks exactly the same, extremely average. And I don't know what it is. Some people just it never progressing kind of stalls out at some level, but I don't know. I don't know what to make of it.
I don't know. I mean, I think that I don't think it exists. I mean, unless something is kind of truly metabolically and wrong with you health wise. If you are trying to improve, you will improve.
Yes.
Whether it's trying to different strategies or blah blah blah. So when you see someone who's not improving over the course of years, that's because they don't want to. That's because it doesn't occur to them to do it. That's because they go to the gym I don't know, maybe, you know, out of habit, out of a feeling that like, okay, I'm going to be healthy, so I'm going to go to the gym today, blah 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 blah. But that's why I'm just a big believer in goals, and I'm a big believer in finding a coach, finding someone who will help you, who is knowledgeable, who will help you progress. And it's like, you know, you decide to go to, you decide to start a kind of exercise regimen, and you should say, okay, this is what I want to look like, or, I want to be faster. I want to be, blah, blah, blah. I mean, if you're a runner, you have a goal, I want to be faster, or you're a power lifter. I want to be stronger. This is, I want to change the way my physique looks. Okay, great. What do you want? How long will it take to get there? And what do you have to do? And then you sort of try to figure that out. And at the end of the day, it's not really rocket science. You just have to want to. And when you see these people who look the same after years and years, it's obvious that figuring out where they want to go is not a priority.
There's no goal there. Yeah.
I get really upset when I see trainers who are with these people over the course of years and they look the same. And I just want to stop them and say, like, what are you doing? Either this is crap and doesn't challenge you enough, or you've decided, because I kind of can understand from the point of view of the trainer too, like you've decided I'm going to, this is as much as I will do. I will show up here. I will you will kind of pantomime for me using my body to do these motions on these machines, and then I'm done after an hour and I go home. And it's like, okay, fine. That's what you've calculated. That's what you've decided that you want from this.
I'm still here.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I could be a trainer who would not want to push people. And I know, look, I mean, I had the first time I really kind of walked into a gym. I was in San Francisco, and I just got one of the trainers that was there at the gym. I think it was 24-hour fitness. Okay, I need to know how to do exercises. So this guy was a stoner, and all he wanted to do with me is just smoke grass.
Really?
I'm like, well, dude, I'm not, I mean, yes, I smoke grass, but like, that's not why we're here. And he just kind of wanted to bullshit. And at that time, I didn't understand the dynamics of a kind of client trainer or client coach relationship. And I was very hesitant to kind of leave him. I ended up leaving the gym and moving and blah, 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 and I figured, you know what, I could just do this on my own if this is what all the trainers are like.
Right.
And,
yeah. But a good one will, like you said this, a good one is great.
Yeah. A good one is life-changing, but it's actually very, very hard to find one. It's like a doctor, right? Because you go into
harder than a doctor, because at least doctors have to go through rigorous training.
Well, sure. But it's the same as the doctor in the sense that you show up at the office, you don't know if this is a smart person. I mean, okay, they got their degree from there, blah, 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 blah. But like, you don't know if this person is actually engaged. You don't know if the last time this person cracked a book was the day that they graduated medical school.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want a doctor like that. You don't know how good they are. You don't know how their bedside manner is. You don't know if they're completely out of their mind. You don't know until you go through it. And then in the case of a trainer or a doctor, if you're new to this, if you're new to the field, you don't even know what to compare it to. So it is a hard thing. I wish there was a better way for people to match up and find and evaluate people who are kind of in-person, in-person trainers.
You also have to know what you're looking for, I think, and that's not easy for newer people or even intermediate people. And I think a good trainer would be someone who could present that to you well, like, what you might be looking for, what you might be needing. And that's sort of where I think in your first example, the person who was with the person for 2 years, they never gotten better. Like that person should have done at least some sort of assessment at some point to like, what are we doing here? What are some of your goals? What are some of this? But yeah, I mean,
I mean, there are very few people, and I've run into these people. I've seen them, that they exist, who just show up one day at a gym and say, "I want to do a show," and and the trainer says, or the coach says, like, "Okay, we'll get you ready to do a show," and then sort of wherever they are, they go and they put in the work over the course of like, maybe a year or something. And then they do the show. Man, that's a really great thing. But I know that not everybody, I mean, shit, when I started, it was kind of the last thing on my mind is to kind of do this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've agreed with you. We've talked about this before. Like I've had no interest. I still have no interest in getting on a stage and posing, and I wanted to get into this, which was there is something to be gotten from going through that process. And I want you to sort of flesh that out for us. So what do you think do you really get from doing something that rigid, that time intensive, that specific? And I wanted to mention, I don't typically like those corny, like, is it called aphorisms or whatever? But like, SMART goals. That's one of the most like legit like things. Like SMART goals, I think it's like specific, and all the rest. I don't remember it, but now the point is, that it's the same sort of concept of setting realistic goals that are time intensive and specific and attainable and all the rest. So yeah, flesh out.
Yeah,
first
I mean,
why,
there's that. I mean, that's a kind of big thing. And anytime that you have a sort of extra disciplinary challenge added to the mix, I think it's good to be able to show yourself that you can do it. But I mean, I don't think that's the main reason why, if you're kind of serious about bodybuilding, you should actually compete. I think that number one is when you get yourself very lean, or let's say significantly lean, doesn't even need to be like show stage lean, but pretty lean. And then you do a reverse diet, you add quality muscle, your physique changes.
Yeah.
And you see people who have done it over the course of years, like every year, and they've competed. I mean, they look different.
Yeah.
There's a significant amount of muscle maturity.
I'm a recent convert to this way of thinking. Yeah.
Yeah.
For the longest time, I was like, I'm on like a sort of permanent, somewhat bulk-ish thing. No, my mind's been changed on this. I think that doing the cutting and bulking cycles, but not just like the way that the average person thinks of cutting and bulking, but like doing a very specific, structured, real cut and bulk, like you're describing. I think you're right. I think that's the best way, and I don't think it's just the right way. And it probably is like scientifically the best way, like, biologically the best way. I also think there's something about the specificity of it that trains you to get the most out of the time that you're doing it. It's like, I think what I'm trying to say is it's also like a mental thing, I think. And I think this also translates to something that I've been experiencing recently, which is, I've really been, and you've talked about this recently too. You've said that you've moved towards the goal of lifting being good contractions versus like however much weight you can put up or whatever it was prior to that. But it's really the focus is more on the contraction of the muscle with each lift. Personally, it's been that way for me too. And there's strategies, there's ways of lifting like tempo wise on how to like really deliver this well. And this is sort of what I think separates out like people in the intermediate phase of their lifting to their more advanced phase of their lifting. And it's something that I've been really tapped into lately, where I'm not lifting tons and tons of weight, but my reps are really clean. They're really powerful, and the focus is all on the contraction, and that involves an advanced mind muscle connection and all the rest. And do you feel the same way? Is this something that you're more tapped into now versus maybe in the past, or more now
for sure. Another reason why I think everyone should do a show, or at least go through the process of getting themselves pretty damn lean, is that when you do cut carbs and you are operating at a calorie deficit, you're going to be weaker. And it's good to be weak in this, like in the sense that, like, it's good to be weak in the sense that it's a thing that's it's an explainable phenomenon, right? It keeps your ego in check, where you're like, okay, I'm less strong today because obviously, I have, I'm in a calorie deficit, blah, blah, blah. I'm cutting. What I'm going to do now is I'm not going to push the weight, but I'm going to make sure that these reps really count. And
how do you do that?
It sort of
how would you
forces
describe
you to do
that?
Well, I mean, you focus on the form, you focus on the contraction. You do things like slow negatives, which I really, really love. It's a 1 second, 1 to 2 second. See, I forgot the terminology, but
there's 4. It's like the pause is number 2, the contract,
right.
the concentric is the 3rd, and the 4th is a pause at the top.
Right. Yeah. So when you my terminology is just terrible, but I know what I'm describing.
You're a musician that you're a virtuoso that's never learned music theory.
Well, I've learned music theory, but not the classical way.
Translated to
bodybuilding. Not the classical way.
Right. Yeah.
So.
No, but do you? Sorry, not to cut back.
Yeah.
Are you really musically trained with me? Okay, I was talking about like the allegory.
Oh yeah. No. I'm pretty much.
Yeah.
Not totally, but pretty much self-taught musically.
Yeah.
As well.
I assumed as much. By the way,
I had I've had kind of private lessons with masters showing me different things. But a lot of it is kind of my personal study. I was not one of those guys in New York who was just, who went to Berkeley and came out with a music degree. Not that I had anything against it. If I were to do it all over again, actually, I may even have done it like that. Just so that I would have more of a command of more of a kind of command and control over the things that I wanted to do.
Right.
But that's a whole side conversation.
Yeah, and so back to the bringing it back to the lifting. You were talking about the slowing down the eccentric, that you enjoy, that you really like that. Chasing the pump and feel, I mean, one of the things, like, I love to do 4, unless I'm really exhausted, I will do 4 sets of everything. Mm-hmm.
Unless I'm really exhausted. Sometimes if I'm working out at 9 p.m. or whatever, and I've just been, and I'm literally exhausted, then maybe I'll do 3.
Right.
But I'll try to make those 3 count. But yeah, I mean, that's what that's what we're doing. I think the another reason why people should do shows, or compete, or get lean. But I think it's more of a function of doing a show. Is like you have to say, okay, my workouts are changing now. So whereas before, it was very easy to say, okay, well, it's push pull legs. Today I'm doing shoulders today, or I'm doing quads today, or blah 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 blah. Now you've got to be more strategic, because you do have a finite amount of days and workouts from now until the show. And as it gets closer to the show, and as the calories are more and more restricted, it's going to be harder to get a good workout. It's going to be harder to get a good pump. It's going to be, I'm going to be exhausted as fuck. So it's really now, in the last, couple of weeks, let's in the next, 3 weeks, let's say, that I need to go and be strategic and say, okay, well, I need to work on my traps a little bit. I need to work on my calves. I need to work on blah, 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 blah. I've got my left lat a little bit smaller than my right lat. How do I try to fix it? And so it's kind of really,
This is
really
the granularity. To those of you who are listening,
right.
This is the granularity of how intense this is.
And it's also literally only possible because you are relatively low body fat, and you can actually see what's going on.
True.
So like once you see it, you're like, okay, I these are things that I want to fix. Whereas before, you've got a layer of fat on you. I mean, how do you know? You don't know,
right?
Unless something is utterly glaring, you don't know.
So Dave, we're coming on about an hour. Can you see the screen at all?
I can't even see myself now. I'm staring into.
Anything different? Anything change up here?
No. It's on my end.
Damn it. Okay. Because I was gonna do a segment before we wrapped it up, which was you and I are gonna react to Twitter hot takes. I could read these to you, maybe. Some of them I can read you.
Just read them if you could.
Yeah, sure. So this one is top 3 workouts a bro should never do. Coming in at number 1, and it's a picture of the adductor machine. Disagree, agree. What do we think?
I mean, I do them.
They're good. Why wouldn't you do a good one? I don't get it. Anyway, well, I do get it. I understand why. It's because when you first start going to the gym, the girls, like, they stick their butts in the air and they're all like exaggerating the motion. But yeah, no, of course you want to work your adductors. You want to work your abductors. These are like the best way to work them. I don't know why. All right, next slide. This one was a little bit more. This one was interesting, and I don't know if you'd have an opinion on this, but 1 to 5 for strength, and he's talking about reps here, rep ranges. 1 to 5 for strength, 8 to 12 for hypertrophy, 6 to 8 does nothing at all. And they show this little graph where it's like, well, you can't see my hand or anything, but it's a graph where they show like this drop, this vertical drop in the 6 to 7 rep range. What do you think? I mean,
I don't know. I mean, I would ask someone like Alexander Cortez would be the guy who would know the science on that.
It has to be bullshit though. Like, does nothing at all?
No. Yeah. I mean, the does nothing at all thing.
No, but I do see the point.
Silly, but
I do see the point.
Yeah. I don't understand. I mean, I'm interested in bodybuilding. I'm not at all interested in strength sports as a kind of thing.
Right.
I don't know why, but I've never been. It's just never been interesting to me. Like, okay, here, marginally, we increase this weight, and here is this person, using ridiculously exaggerated form to lift this thing once. It's like, okay, I mean, fine, sure. To me, like, some of the old time strongman stuff is more compelling. Like, lifting a big rock or something. It's like, okay, that's a big rock and it's like difficult. But
yeah, that's more entertaining.
Yeah. But but that said, like, I mean, I'm always in that 10 to 12 or 15.
I go all the way up to 20.
Yeah. I mean, I do. I just did legs today or tonight, and I did 20 reps of just about everything.
It's an interesting thought. I'm not sold that it does not. I know I don't think that they think it does nothing, but I get their point. It's interesting to think about. All right, let's go to the next one. Hot take, but a quote fitness industry has done far more harm to people than quote body positivity has. We all know who this person voted for. All right, we can move on.
Yeah, it's a lot of cope.
Yeah, it's cope.
That's a lot. That's a lot of mental energy spent trying to justify to yourself why, why you look like crap.
Certified cope. You heard it here, folks. Next up, my fitness hot take today. There are no quote bad foods. Any food can be bad for you when eaten without moderation and not according to your nutritional goals. Nutrition is not one size fits all for any food to be categorized as quote bad. I actually agree with this. In a very abstract, in a very like context-free way, it's true.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's true. It's unobjectionable. I just think that it's so like it's. I mean, it's kind of. I mean, it's true as far as it goes, right? But the as far as it goes is sort of doing a lot of work.
Yeah. All right. Last one.
I mean, look, though there are cracked foods, candy corn, right? That's a bad food.
Yeah, but that's like cardboard.
Yeah, but I mean,
well,
it is a food. I mean, there's plenty of
got
stuff
no
that's just pure crap of no nutritional value.
It's got no nutritional value. So on the margins, you see those extreme cases where you could make the case that there are bad foods. Yeah. All right. I don't know what Gen Pop means, but Gen Pop quote fitness pulls way too much from the bodybuilding and way too little from athletic development / strength plus conditioning for the average person's good. Not a hot take, but an absolute fact. So I don't know what Gen Pop means, but what I took away from this
population.
Oh, the general pop. Okay, perfect. That works. So it pulls way too much from bodybuilding and way too little from athletic development, strength conditioning. Do you want to give your take first, or?
Yeah, I'm kind of. I mean, not to insult anybody, but it's funny. I'll post a photo or make reference to bodybuilding in some way, and invariably there will be reply guys, and the reply guys who are the some of the most pedantic will be like, well, that may be fine for you, but I only train for endurance and blah, blah, blah. Like, who gives a fuck?
I wasn't
like,
talking.
I don't care. I wasn't talking to you. This isn't a dialogue. I get the sense, at least from Twitter, I get the sense that the people who are into like what you're describing cannot wait. They're like CrossFit people. They cannot wait to tell you, and frankly, to judge you and say like your aesthetic concerns are bullshit. What is really important is what I'm doing, or like, the functional strength and blah, blah, blah. Like, look, I think that's great. Have a ball, do what you want. be great at whatever you're doing. If you're moving, if you're getting exercise, if you're lifting, that's great. I love it. Doesn't even matter. Everybody has different goals, and I absolutely get it, and I respect it. But that said, there is a big chunk of, let's say, the online right that valorizes this kind of functional strength, functional athleticism, to the detriment of the more aesthetic pursuits.
Well, I'm with you
all the
I'm
time.
with you.
I see it. I see it every single day, and it's like, I mean, whatever. To each his own.
I'm with you. I'm with you on that 100%. And I also think that people, I think that they misunderstand bodybuilding. Somebody once said something like, yeah, I want to do bodybuilding, but I also want to incorporate some mobility stuff. And I hear this all the time, and you might hear it too, and you may even agree, because I don't know, it sounds right. But then, I mean, what do you mean mobility stuff? When it comes to bodybuilding, if you're doing it right, you're getting a good stretch, like in every way. Like it's not like, I mean, look, if you need additional stuff for you personally, go for it. But at the bottom of a squat, you're getting more of a stretch than you would, in, I don't know, in anything really.
Right. No, it's from the same school of thought as, I don't want to get too bulky. Like, motherfucker,
yeah,
you're not going to get too bulky. Believe you me.
I don't want to get too big.
It's like, I don't want to get too bulky. You know what that is? That's your fat ass eating. That's exactly what that means. That means like,
that's you're terrified of your past, is what it sounds
right.
like.
No. That means like, oh, I'm going to the gym now, therefore I can go and I can pig out. And then you're like, oh man, True. I'm so bulky now.
My favorite is, I think I'm going to pass on the protein shake. I don't want to get too big. Like, oh God, man, geez. Unless you're making a really nuanced point.
Like a soy latte?
Yeah, like, no, you could make a really nuanced point, but that person's not making the point that I'm thinking of, which is to say, protein shakes after the gym are not that satiating, and you'll be eating an hour later. And for people like us who think that's great, that's one thing. But for people who are not good, they might be like, I'll skip on the protein shake. I don't want to get too big. It's like, you won't get too big. All right. Well, we have people. Oh, I forgot I could do this. I haven't been on stream notes in a long time.
Getting big takes work.
Oh yeah, that's right. You can't see the screen. Yeah. Yes. It takes work.
The idea, yeah. I mean, the idea, and then you see these, and then you see these people too on Twitter, like, oh, blah 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 blah, the steroids, da da da. Like, if I took steroids, I would look like that. I'm sure you would, asshole. I'm sure you would.
You don't want to know what that person would look like on steroids. It would be a disaster for most people. There's and I'll wrap up after this, but there are some people that maybe I shouldn't get into that. All I was gonna mention was some people, their skin gets destroyed from doing this, and doing it like too young. You really got to be careful with that stuff if you're going to do that. I've seen people on Twitter and people in real life who just, their skin has been destroyed for life, and not just that, but they look older, and there's some 20-something-year-olds that I know who are, they're doing everything, and they look 40-something years old. Mm. And not to say 40 is not excellent, Dave.
Look, I think I'm holding it down at 4. I mean,
you definitely are.
40, 45.
No, you're definitely.
It's actually kind of nice going to a gym and looking, far more badass than, the kids in their late 20s.
Yeah, yeah, and they probably look up. You've got
the youth, but like.
I'm 33. I'm pushing youth. I'm starting to show my age, but that's another story.
Still a long way to go.
Yeah, we'll see. All right, Dave, it was good chatting. I want to wrap up here. To everybody who doesn't follow Dave on social media, he's on Twitter at David Reaboi. Is it Dave or Dave Reaboi?
It's Dave.
Dave Reaboi.
Yeah.
For those of you guys who like what you see, we're going to do just a very short Q&A over in the Discord community of Gaintrust Discord. So the link is in the description. If you want to join the community, it's totally free to join. And we do all sorts of things. We support each other and give each other resources for how to get big and lose weight and keep each other accountable. So feel free to join the Discord. It's in the description. That's enough for YouTube and Rumble for today, but we'll be here next week to talk about all sorts of different topics, and we'll get back to the regular programming. Thanks, Dave, for joining, and we'll see you guys next week. This